everybody, to another episode of Plakata Nation. Here we are, pumped up. I am joined by the one and only mi primo desde el Bronx. Cuz Rod, what's going on?
And what up?
All the way from H-Town, Houston, we're talking to Jesus Ortiz, baseball writer extraordinaire, getting us the inside scoop on everything that's going on. We're really pumped up, guys, to get going today. And I want to get started immediately talking about this young movement, right, of players coming into the league and making an immediate impact. Because before, when we go back in the day, it used to take a lot for players to get called up. There was a lot of seasoning. Years would go by before, some of these kids would get a call up, and we're talking about maybe an average of 2.5 years in the minor leagues before perhaps they would say, okay, you're ready for the big leagues. Nowadays, this is the issue. If you're ready for the big leagues, there's no reason why you should be down there just spinning wheels in the minor leagues. And boys, I am so excited for Roman Anthony, for the Boston Red Sox. He came out and, got called up and immediately was hitting missiles, extreme exit velocities, didn't get a hit in his first few at bats, but man, he was just crushing the baseball. So I'm like, okay, that process and approach works. And then a few at bats later, he hits a line drive down the line, double, and it was such a beautiful sight because his family went crazy. All right, and that's what it's all about, like seeing the family. These families have been with these players, guys, throughout their entire trajectory to the big leagues. They know what they've been through. They know the struggles. They know all the effort that has been put forth. They know the dream from a very young age. And it finally becomes true. And you're like, wow, this is so beautiful to see. And I'm excited for these players. Roman Anthony really impressed, when, in spring training, all the guys were speaking, so highly of him as a professional, as a potential all-star, et cetera, et cetera. Man, this kid has really been an impact in that lineup immediately. So really exciting for this young players getting to the league and really making a splash immediately. Roman Anthony, man, I'm pumped for him.
I'm pumped for him and for his family, big time. They're like, and I saw it when you came up, Carlos. The entire family were so excited, so hyped. So, seeing that shot of his family looking at him when his first at bat at Fenway, and man, like that gave me the chills because it kind of took me back to when you came up and we saw your first at bat. And it's baseball is a love affair, but it's a family love affair, especially when your whole family rally behind you and to lift you up. And this kid is super talented. All we heard was whispers, like, "Oh man, the Red Sox got this guy," and I was worried because I'm a Yankee fan. So I'm like, "Damn, I got to deal with this guy in the lineup for the next 15 freaking years," and I got to worry about him. So it's like, but it's the guy is talented. The guy is talented. He's got a lot of talent, and the Red Sox, man, their farm system, you're starting to see it because you've heard for so long the Red Sox farm system. They got talent, man.
Yeah, man, that was so exciting. Jesus, I mean, you've seen many of these because you're out there between the lines on a daily basis. I mean, it's got to be so powerful and rewarding, even if you're not, you're just looking from the outside in to see these kids make their dream come true. Like that's got to be empowering, I would say. Like, just seeing that, it just. We talked about this early on this year, where we saw guys make the team, right? And how incredible that was. Well, this is kind of the same thing, except that now, these kids are getting called up from the minor leagues that didn't break camp with the ball club. I love these stories, man. I love these stories. You know how difficult it is to get to the major leagues? You do.
You do. We all do, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret that I just realized right now when you're talking about rookies. So I bought this shirt that I'm wearing in 2015 in Chicago because at the last minute, ESPN called me and said, "Hey, can you do a hit on ESPN?" And I have a dress shirt, so I went and bought this dress shirt, and I wore it the day that Carlos Correa came up to the majors against the White Sox. So yeah, I love those. I love, I'll never forget just talking to Carlos Correa and his family after he made his debut, and then after the next day after he hit his first MLB home run. But I tell you what, going back to the Red Sox, Marcelo Mayer, the kid from Chula Vista, right across the border from Tijuana, Mexico, whose uncle was a great Mexican League baseball player. This dude this week hit 2 home runs in a game for the first time. He is going to be special. And not to look too far ahead, but after I saw him hit 2 home runs, after what I've been seeing with Isaac Paredes here, uh, later uh, this year, we have to ask the question: has Mexico surpassed Puerto Rico as a baseball nation? These Marcelo Myers, there are a lot of young studs for Mexico right now. We talk about like the Toronto Blue Jays, what they're doing with Alex Kirk as the catcher. So Marcelo Myers, his 2 home run day made me ask this question to myself. And I think I put it on X. Has Mexico surpassed Puerto Rico as a baseball country? So we all know the Dominican Republic is king. We know the US is king. But who's number 3? Cuba, probably, or Mexico? Don't tell Yadier Molina I said this because I don't want to get my ass kicked. You know what I'm saying?
That's a great question, man. That's tough. Wow.
I'll tell you what, like that would be a great exercise to go through. But it's so funny you mentioned Mexican baseball. I mean, been one of my really good friends, Jorge Cantu, is one of my best friends.
Yeah.
And man, I tell you what, he used to be a player. But we have had conversations about the baseball that's being played in Mexico, like right now, as a matter of fact. Yeah. The Mexican League is going on, and it is legit, man. They play hardcore ball. So, we're talking about, Cantu just recently retired, really, just a couple of years ago from Los Diablos Rojos. He was playing there. And he really did not want to stop playing because how much fun he was having and how like competitive and how intense it is. So I love to see it. I absolutely love to see it. There's a lot of Dominican players playing in the Mexican League. And it's hardcore, Rod. Like,
that's awesome.
We got to make our way over there.
I love it. I love it. I think that's great. I think it's great for the game. Like, MLB is the king league of baseball, 100%. You can say the Japanese league is there, obviously Lidom, but to say, Mexico has a league and they're really good, really competitive. I just think it's great for the game that we see this, that we see this competitiveness. And Jesus, man, when you asked that question, dude, it took me back to how they would talk about with boxing when you have the late great Hector Macho Camacho versus Cesar Chavez. Like, it reminded me of like that old school thing, the Puerto Ricans versus Mexicans in boxing. But that question you brought up, man, like you got to start asking that because it's true. There's so much Mexican talent coming in through the pipeline, and you can't deny the impact these players are having, man. That's another rookie you got to worry about now. Marcelo Mayer too, man. What the heck, yo? Carlos.
Dropping placatas, bro. Like, that's what I'm talking about.
Yes. Yesterday at Citi Field, right? Yesterday at Citi Field, you had Jonathan Aranda with that beautiful stroke. He hit a bomb off the Mets, and the Rays beat the Mets. And you're talking about like first base, and then the Mets the Rays decided this year, like, we're gonna play this kid at first base, and we're not gonna move him. And he's off to a great start. You have Paredes. Jose Ramirez right now is the only guy that I would pick against ahead of Paredes for the All-Star at third base in the American League. That's how strong. Well, and our boy Caminero, I like that. Okay, Caminero, Paredes, like Ramirez. Those are my three third basemen for the American League in the All-Star game. And but I mean, think about that. Like every day, Marcelo Mayer. But it's so great to see young talent just showing out.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah, it's very important.
Like you can't be having your best player in the minor leagues just because he's young. Like you used to have those young players way back in the day, right? There were a handful that just came out. They got called up, right? Very few. Like I remember John Olerud. They said John Olerud never spent a day in the minor leagues. Dave Winfield, Ken Griffey Jr. right away. But it was like one here, one there. Now we see this movement, which is like, listen, guys, we have this player in our organization. He is right now the best player or the most talented player in the whole entire organization. What in the world is he doing in the minor leagues?
Yeah.
Call him up. Instead of like, we need seasoning. That's another thing, like looking at the college baseball. College baseball has really prepared players to be called up quickly. Right away, that these guys have been through an incredible program. They've been seasoned and that they're ready to handle the big leagues, right? And yes, there is you have to adapt. You have to get up to the level, but the talent is there. The fundamentals are there. Why wait? Let's call these young guys up, and I love it. I absolutely.
I agree, Carlos. And I think a lot of it, and you guys can attest with the business of baseball because you guys know more than I do in that aspect. I know a lot of it had to do with control and contracts. Oh, we don't want to call them up because we got to worry about arbitration. This and that. Like I know the Yankees did that with Aaron Judge because I always heard rumblings of this Aaron Judge. I'm like, yo, like Cashman, why are you hiding him? Bring him up. This guy's a beast, and look at him, what he's doing now. You could say that about a lot of guys, but I love that. I love that these young players are getting the opportunity to play. Like Juan Soto came up super young. That's why he got the contract that he got. Like I think it's important for the game that we get these young guys, these guys in their early 20s playing because that's how you grow the game among the kids, among people that watch it, because they could follow a player from a young age grow into and blossom into a superstar. It is vital for the game that we keep doing this and we keep seeing this because, this is what it is. This is what it's about. Like you see a guy, like I said, we go back to Roman Anthony, Marcelo Mayer. The guy that I want to talk about is Jacob Mirowski. I believe hopefully I'm saying his name right. Rookie for the Milwaukee Brewers, starting pitcher who came up this week. Carlos, did you see this dude?
Throw it
5 hits, 5 strikeouts, walked out 4. Dude reached 100 plus miles, 14 pitches doing that. Unfortunately, man, he got hurt. It looked like something with his ankle. I'm not sure. I hope he's okay because I want to see more of this kid. When I saw that, I was so impressed with the skill. And I'm like, wow. And the Brewers need this. The Brewers have, it's been rough for the Brewers. So it's really good to see a pitcher and a young pitcher, a rookie at that, come in and you show the fans, listen, yeah, we may not be doing great right now, but look, this is the future. This is what we have.
When you see that type of arm, that plays, Jesus. It plays. Like you see the stuff, you see the arm, it plays. Then after that, it's just health. That's all that matters.
You guys are gonna laugh. Okay, so my family has a family baseball fantasy league where it's like my kids, my siblings, my nieces and nephews, and my daughter, my oldest daughter, she's kind of been struggling. So as soon as I saw that kid pitch, I'm like, hey, you need to go pick this kid up. You never know, stash him if you have to. But with that arm, I'm like, 5 no hit, that arm, you 100. Hey, stash him. I can't, and I need my daughters to start winning some so they could take down the people. I'm in 5th. I gotta do well. But like last year at the College World Series, the championship series, you had Christian Moore, like he was a baller. Well, a year later, the Angels just called him up. This kid can ball. He's from your neck of the woods, from New York. But started at Tennessee, helped Tennessee beat A&M for the College World Series. But yeah, there's a lot of great young talent here in Houston. Cam Smith, The kid showed up at spring training, and all he did was rake. And they said, "Hey, you're on our opening day roster." And he struggled a little bit early, but now he's found his legs.
Yeah.
And if you have the time, you have the opening, let them find their legs, because you need them. They're going to help you win. And the kid is an athlete. And say what you want about the Astros, but they keep finding ways to win. Jose Altuve was on fire this week. And we need to talk about our boy Alex Cintron and what's he doing with the hitters. I mean, Jeremy Peña. We all know there's this guy named Aaron Judge, but I bet you if I told you guys that Jeremy Peña is number 2 in WAR this year, it would stun a lot of people.
Yeah.
But so Cintron, who's gonna manage for our guy Carlos Peña. Hey, Cuz Rod, have you gotten your gear from Winter Ball?
I've looked in the mail. I've looked in the mail this week. I've checked FedEx, UPS. Haven't gotten a jersey, a shirt, a hat. I'm waiting for a welcome package with season tickets, and not season tickets. I'm sorry, Jesus. I'm waiting for the key for the suite to go in. I haven't gotten that either. I don't know what's going on.
You're gonna be sitting on the bleachers. I'm definitely gonna get you some gear. That for sure. But you have a seat like in the corner up there, way up there, bro.
We need some Leones de Escogido like hats or something, because I'm gonna be walking in there and be like, they're like, señor. I'm like, no, yo conozco al manager y al gerente. A mí déjenme en paz. I'm even gonna like do my Dominican accent, change it. They're not even gonna know that I have Mexican roots. Like, ¿qué lo que?
They'll let you in. I'll give you your pass. I'll tell you this. Alex Cintron, man, we're really excited to have him as a manager. Extremely capable, and I'm really pumped that you have this opportunity to talk to him, because he's doing a great job over there in Houston. Houston right now in first place comfortably in the American League West, really doing their thing, and it's almost as if they just continue despite the losses they've had. They figure out a way to stay on top, and then they are still reigning. And Jeremy Peña is a huge story because of this, right? Like, look, he had an unbelievable beginning of his career. We're talking about rookies making an impact and coming up. He comes up. He is the World Series MVP, wins a Gold Glove. Goes absolutely nuts, and then has a couple of years where maybe he's not playing up to everyone's expectations. I know not playing up to his own expectations, which can be extremely frustrating. But this kid continues to work and fight, and look at him now. It's there. I mean, the work ethic is certainly evident. I mean, he's absolutely jacked, by the way. Absolutely jacked. Comes from the University of Maine, so I'm a huge fan because, I'm from the Northeast. And, you can't argue with the fact that he's got Peña as a last name, so I'm always going to be.
We claimed him. Remember, we claimed him a few years ago. So he's one of us, technically.
Es otro primo que tenemos por ahí.
Yeah, definitely.
That's the way we see it. So Jesus, please let us know. I mean, what are your impressions? I mean, you see him every single day, Jeremy Peña. We're pumped for him. This kid is a true professional. So easy to root for. Yeah. And man, he comes to play every single day, even when it was, when he was going through those tough times. That tells me a lot about a player. When things are not going perhaps the way he wants to, how does he conduct himself? This guy just showed up every day and gave it all he had, despite the difficulties.
He shows up. He plays with a flair. He always has a smile on his face. He puts in the work. But when he came in, he had the weight of a huge, huge departure. He had to replace Carlos Correa, who was an awesome mentor, who helped him, who told him, like, hey, it's your turn. But I don't care, whether the guy supports you or not. It's still going to be a heavy burden because Carlos Correa in here, like a great player, helped them win their first World Series, and now he's gone. And guess what? It's your turn. And all he did was become the first rookie shortstop to win a Gold Glove in the American League, ALCS MVP, World Series MVP. The kid did it all, and some could argue that Alex Bregman deserved it as well. He didn't do it all by himself. He had, we all know, Jordan Alvarez had a great World Series. Framber Valdez had a great World Series. But your shortstop, who was a rookie, was your MVP for the World Series, and that says a lot. And like you mentioned, then the expectations just got greater, and he wasn't quite the same as next year. He wasn't quite the same the third year, and this year, at this pace, he's starting at shortstop for the American League at the All-Star game in Atlanta, and I love to see it. He seems, by all accounts, to be in a very great place, personally and professionally. He was dating I think the soccer player. So I'm excited for him. The Astros needed him desperately this year because they may be in first place in the American League West, but keep in mind this team's going to be a lot better when they get Jordan Alvarez in that lineup. Think about how this lineup's going to look when a healthy Jordan Alvarez gets into the middle of that lineup. And, because Joe Espada's done a great job mixing and matching. They've lost, Ronald Blanco. But yet, you mentioned it, Primo, the Astros are inevitable, bro. Like they're just, they're that bus that shows up at your house to pick you up every day from school. And at the end of the year, they're going to be right there in the playoffs.
I got to say this. Like, at the beginning of the year, we did our standing stuff, and I was trying to be bold with a lot of my picks and stuff. And the thing with the Astros is this, and I said it, it's true. It's like they are inevitable. They just know they know how to win. They know when to put themselves in the best position to win. They always have the right leadership. And it's one of those things where it's just, you can't kill them. You can't kill them. You can't write them off. Like literally, you can't do that. They're like that meme of like, I didn't hear no bell. Like I'm gonna get up and I'm gonna keep fighting. And that's a testament to the leadership. You said it, man. You got Jose Altuve in there, and he's that voice in that clubhouse. That's like, nah, we're not. We're champs. We are the standard of the American League. You know what I mean? And that's how they look at it as. And it's funny because at the beginning of the year it was rough. They didn't start off great, but slowly and surely, win after win after win. Now they're 4.5 ahead of the Mariners. And when they get Jordan, that's a massive bat to put in the middle of that lineup. That's only going to make Jeremy Peña better. That's only going to make everybody else better. So, I'm really curious to see where our standings are going to be come August, September, when things start to really pick up. They're 39-30 right now. They have the third best record in the American League. And, listen, every team gets struck with injuries. These things happen. It is baseball. It is 162 games a year. But the Astros might be getting healthy at the right time. And who knows where this takes them.
Well, if you hold it down like this with injuries, and then you get, Alvarez back, I mean, that is just icing on the cake. But how awesome it is to have enough depth and enough, let's say, weapons just to figure out a way to weather the storm, right? Of all these injuries. Let me tell you, when you mention Alvarez, I immediately go to that World Series, and I go to Game 6, and they bring in Alvarado to face him because of that lefty matchup. And I'm like, what lefty matchup, Jesus? Like, I'm looking back at that Philly move, and I'm thinking that was the worst move ever made in the history of World Series baseball, because I'm like, You don't do that against Alvarez. You can do it against any other lefty, but not against him. I don't care if you throw in 110. All right, it just doesn't matter to Alvarez. Alvarez rakes against left-handed pitching. So why would you bring a lefty? And especially Alvarado that likes to throw the ball low and away, glove side, to Alvarez. So, anyways, like the reason why I remember that, like it was yesterday, I was in the stadium. And I am talking it out loud. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it. They bring in Alvarado. And sure enough, fastball, middle away, knee high. Plakata. It was like the loudest home runs I've ever heard. Like, and I was live right behind home plate, and I saw that ball just leave the yard straight away center field. Jesus. It was, in that place erupted. And I'm like, World Series over. One move, and Alvarez made them pay. So I'm a huge fan. I was a huge fan before that. But when you see it live, and I'm like, wow, that was one of the coolest things I've ever experienced as a baseball fan, right? Because I was in the stands in that moment. So you don't have to say a lot. You don't have to talk a lot about Alvarez. He's one of my favorite hitters.
That's a Plakata player right there. When you think about Plakata, you think about what the definition of that is, hitting the now, of just hitting a blast that you just echoes. Yordan Alvarez, that big monster of a man, and just incredible left-handed hitter, man. He defies what that is, man.
Here on the Houston topic, Jesus, I know you have a lot to say because you're there on a daily basis. What are you observing? I mean, as far as his progress is concerned.
Well, glad you asked. Last week was a crazy week. Last weekend, they were trying to get him to take live batting practice. I was there for that. I took pictures. He hit one to right field, and everybody smiled. But the interesting thing was that he just wasn't ready. He was not ready, and I think the Astros have learned a lesson to listen to their players, because sadly, or was it 2 weeks ago? When they had him take live BP, the next day, the next Saturday, he was gonna talk and say, but turns out he had a fracture, still had a small fracture in his hand. They hadn't seen it. And he told them, like, I still have pain, and he made it clear that he wasn't going to come back if he still had pain. And sure enough, they're like, well, let's do another MRI, and they found the fracture. Hopefully, it's been 2 weeks now, and with a little bit more time, once it heals, he should be fine. But with Yordan Alvarez, I really do believe that only injuries will keep him from Cooperstown. If he can stay healthy, and that's been difficult during his career, right? He had the 2 knee surgeries in 2020, and he's a big man. And I think if he's healthy, he's going to the Hall of Fame. But when we talk about the Astros as a whole right now, they have the best closer in baseball. Josh Hader has been perfect as we record this. They've mixed and matched in the outfield. Jose Altuve has made a really good transition to the outfield, and now it's just a matter of the left side of that infield has carried the offense. It's been the Isaac Paredes and Jeremy Peña show, with everybody kind of mixing in. But once they get their big bat, and we've discussed this, we thought at the start of the season that the Dodgers were by far the best team in baseball. Turns out that the cliche is true. You could never have enough pitching, because the team that we thought had way more pitching than anybody else has had a lot of pitching injuries, and they're like, what's going to happen with the Dodgers? The Yankees are a lot better than I expected, but I still don't think there's a good American League team that I would pick against the Astros. If the Astros make it and Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez are healthy, they're my World Series pick, because pitching wins And I think if Jordan Alvarez is healthy and Jeremy Peña and Isaac Paredes, great. You were going to lose Kyle Tucker, so they got a guy here whose career high for home runs is 31. And on June 14th, after sitting out yesterday with a hamstring tightness, he's already halfway to his career high, and we're not even to July. That guy, that was a great trade. You got two starters for the price of one, and two starters that they needed. They needed Cam Smith, they needed Isaac Paredes, and I really do believe that the Jeremy Peña, Isaac Paredes.
Yeah, man, just a great team all around. Figure out ways to piece it together, and it's been it's the sum of all parts for the Houston Astros. And also we've marveled at what the pitching has been able to do. Specifically talking about Fran Valdez and what he's been able to do, especially that incredible game that he threw not too long ago, where he had just 80 something pitches, and just shows you the potential of he's a young player, so he's hopefully he stays healthy. We're going to see a lot of great performances like that one again. But just the sum of all parts for the Houston Astros. And today, one of the things that I think it's important to point out is we've been talking about the young players and their impact. We've been talking about going through a little bit of a valley and then coming back at the other end. Like we're talking about Peña, Jeremy, who started off extremely well, then had a couple of years where it was difficult for him. He battled through those and kept on working. The ability to stay in the process and continue to get the work done brings us to the quote of the day. It comes from Zechariah 4:10. It's a verse from the Bible. It says, "Do not despise these small beginnings, for the Lord rejoices to see the work begin." And I love that verse because sometimes we don't like incremental gains, man. We are in this mentality of we want to just put something in the microwave and in 10 minutes you have the result, right? Actually, in a few minutes you have the result, right? We have this microwave mentality, and that is so bad. We want everything instantaneous. We want it to be right away. We want to get the result we want right away. We work at something for a couple hours and we think that we have to reach the pinnacle immediately. No. That's not what this verse is talking about. The Lord loves it when you get started, right? It's all about, small little beginnings, and do not underestimate the power of just getting yourself going. And all these guys at one point in their careers, maybe when they were young, they thought about becoming major leaguers, and maybe they didn't even have the swing or the skills yet. But they started working. Maybe it was working in school, making sure the grades were what they needed to be. And you're like, oh, that's not going to do anything. That's not a big deal. Or we have, people who want to start a business and they're like, okay, I want to get started, but that's not good enough. I'm like, no. Small beginnings are actually important. Do not underestimate the small beginnings and the small steps you take, because that's what gets you going. And I would love to hear your insight. And obviously we are utilizing baseball to convey this type of message because it's right in front of us, but it applies to our lives, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does apply to our lives. And I was trying to, while you were talking, I was listening, but I was trying to come up with a great allegory. And then I look at our logo and then I look at the Our Esquina podcast network, and I got to give props and my flowers to my brother, Jesus, because, this whole production of Our Esquina, that's his baby. And, everything is a small beginning. Jesus woke up one day and said, you know what? I want to do this. I want to create something that's for us, for the Latino community, for Latin American people. I want them to feel like they can go to this website, to this place where they can get stories, or they can connect. And, it started off something small, and it's growing and it's blooming, and hopefully it'll bloom to something even greater and bigger than even he possibly imagined. So it's when I hear that quote, funny enough, I think about you and I think about what you're doing and what you're doing with our esquina, man. I'm proud of this. I'm proud to be part of this because especially now we need our voices to be heard. I think it's vital. I think it's important because we are a part of this world. We're a part of this country. So, man, thank you for creating this, man. This is a beautiful thing, and again, it's a small beginning, but it's gonna grow into something beautiful.
Well, no doubt.
Well, it's so funny that you were saying that because I was thinking the same thing, probably selfishly, because people don't see the small beginnings, the small steps. But then, like we had a great meeting with a big time company, two big time companies, and you always wait for the second meeting, right? And like this was the second meeting, and you could tell that they're doing the vision, and they're like, all right, Jesus, we need this interview, this interview, this interview, and we're gonna do a sizzle reel, and we're gonna take it to Apple. I'm like, whoa, yes, that's what I've been waiting for, bro. But because it's one thing for us to see the vision, you have to sell the vision, right?
Yeah.
And then this week, we've been, you guys get my text messages that I've been sending you. This has been a great week because when I talk to people, I show them the numbers, right? And some people don't know like what the numbers mean. And then you see another company and they make a great deal, and it's good when it's a great deal, it's not your same category. And you see our numbers and their numbers and what they're getting for their numbers. So then when you show that the investors are like, hey guys, but I think it's all about small beginnings, and I tell my guys like just stack things on top of each other because sometimes we'll put because we want to tell these stories, so we want to do these documentaries, and it's tough because some people see the value in our numbers, other people don't see it, and I still remember my sports journalism law class, and my professor telling a story about how he went and he was defending this company that stole a jingle from a major American fast food place, and they used it in country music, but because the fast food place didn't appreciate how many people listen to country music, they didn't ask for that much money for this jingle that they had taken. And that's how I see the Latino community. Like they take us for granted, and they don't realize that we're everywhere, that our numbers are great. And I have to give a shout out about our numbers being great because Fernando Valenzuela was really the first Latino athlete in American history that showed the world that Latinos were everywhere. Because Mexicans would show up in Pittsburgh and people are like, we have Mexicans in Pittsburgh? In St. Louis, because in '91, because he filled the stadiums with all these Mexicans. Yeah, like oh, what, and we're everywhere. And in a time where we need Mexican and Latino voices to speak up for the immigrants, who spoke up? Fernando Valenzuela's daughter. She spoke up for immigrants. And that story's on our esquina. And that was great to see because in the complete opposite, I was heartbroken is probably the right word when I see Javier Aguirre, the coach of the Mexican national team, said, "No soy la portavoz del mexicano. I'm not the spokesman for the Mexican." Well, that is very interesting to say because you represent the Mexican national soccer team, which is the most important team in Mexico. And the Mexican Soccer Federation makes most of its money off not the Mexicans in Mexico, the Mexicans in the US, because they pay in dollar. And that's why they play most of their friendlies in the United States. So what is it? Do you represent them or do you not represent the Mexicans? And if you claim to represent the Mexicans, if you claim that we're all in this together, then you can't turn your back on. So, sometimes, to use a Mexican vulgarity, sometimes the ladies are the ones with the huevos and not the guys.
100%, man. 100%. I use That was well said, man. That was well said.
I'm glad, Rod, that you brought that up about our Skina and what the mission is, right? And it's to bring all this, bring the audience, our people up to date on everything that's going on. And this is literally like our Skina, So I'm really proud of what Jesus has been able to build. And the points, one of the points that I loved about what Jesus said was that stacking up concept, which means that all these incremental gains or incremental moves, even though they look small, when you stack them on top of each other, they really make a difference. So we want to encourage everyone listening, that, hey, do not despise small beginnings. It doesn't matter how small these steps are; they actually do matter, and continue to move forward. The one thing we can't do is just to stay stagnant. So let's keep on moving forward. Let's stack them up. There's this compound effect. Let's take this quote into the week and know that I love the fact that it says that the Lord rejoices when the work begins. So you almost feel, you should feel that God is blessing the movement, and really blessing the fact that you're moving forward. So let's take that into the week. Do not despise the smallest beginnings, because the Lord rejoices when the work begins. And let's apply it to our own lives and continue to move forward. Doesn't matter how small our steps are. All right, we'll do that. And with that, let's wrap it up. Another episode of Plakata Nation. Thank you for being with us. Really appreciate you guys. Always a pleasure. All right. Until next time. Plakata. Today's episode of the Plakata Nation podcast was produced by the Arskina Podcast Network. Executive produced and edited by Ras Guevara. Additional engineering support and publishing by Francisco Castro. Be sure to subscribe, rate, and review us wherever you listen. It really helps us grow the show. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next week.